Once upon a time in Lagos, Nigeria, there was a wedding planner like no other. Her name was Tolani. Now Tolani was a very mysterious woman. No one knew what she looked like because she never showed her face. And people loved her more because of that. People called her the Ghost Wedding Planner. Even though no one knew what she looked like, she was so sought after that every bride wanted her to plan their wedding. In fact, no bride wanted a tawny wedding. To hire her was a status symbol. She was the best, and she charged top dollar too. Her clients were mostly celebrities, politicians, oil tycoons, and socialites. If you could afford her services, you were good to go. Though no one knew what Tolani looked like, her presence was so powerful that everyone knew she existed. Even if you hadn't heard about her, you would have seen her weddings because they were always on social media, always going viral. Those weddings were always works of art. She had the most creative ideas and breathtaking aesthetics. She sourced the best vendors in the country, too. No one could blame the bride and groom for wanting a tawny wedding. After all, it was their special day, and they wanted it to be perfect. No wonder people were always willing to pay her exorbitant amount, and she got booked months or even years in advance. But all that glitz and glam wasn't enough for Tolani. She had a dark secret that terrified the couples she worked with. Over the years, she had built a reputation that struck fear into the hearts of those she planned the weddings for. Here's the thing. No couple ever met Tolani. Whenever a new client approached her, she would always give them the same instructions. She always had the same rules. She wouldn't meet them face to face. She wouldn't allow them to speak to her directly. She wouldn't answer emails or return calls. They had to send a representative to deliver documents and collect payments. No exceptions. This representative was a man. His name was Mr. Kerr, and he was her right-hand man. Tall and stoic, he inspired little confidence and many questions. When clients got to his office, he would calmly hand them a contract, then collect the documents and payments without so much as a smile. That contract contained all the terms and conditions, and one of those conditions stated clearly in red ink that the client must not meet Tolani under any circumstances. Now, these contracts were usually filled with tons of questions. She needed to know the budget, the guest list, the themes, the colors, etc. But there was no space for anything personal. She didn't ask for the couple's name, their phone numbers, or their addresses. There was no need for them to know each other anyway. After all, they would never meet. Now, some brides were scared. They questioned the whole charade, but when a wedding with Tolani was on the line, none of that mattered anymore. They paid, they signed the dotted lines, and they left. They'd get updates from Mr. Carr instead. He would send them pictures of how the decor turned out and a breakdown of how their money was being spent. Still, Tolani's weddings were the talk of the town. Everyone wanted to know how such exquisite weddings were being planned without the input of the couple. Was she psychic? Did she have some magical way of reading minds? That's why hers was the most requested name whenever a new high-profile wedding was being planned. She was in such high demand that she had a waiting list that stretched back 10 years. That's how long you had to wait to get Tolani's attention. Now, despite the benefits, there was a downside to this arrangement. Clients complained that they couldn't change anything. Tolani never asked for their preferences. She just planned, according to what she thought was best. This meant that sometimes the groomsmen wore pink instead of gray. Sometimes the food stalls were colorful instead of white, and sometimes the bride's gown was yellow instead of white. It wasn't easy living with the consequences of those decisions. But hey, she was the expert, right? She knew what was best. Still, the risk was present. Many couples considered changing their minds, but they held back. No one wanted to be the one to break the news to Tolani. What if she chose someone else? What if they lost her services? That was a risk no one was willing to take. All these stories would have stayed as just stories if not for a media personality named Chetta. Chetta was getting married, and she hired Talani. Like the rest of them, she signed the contract and paid the large sum. Then she waited for her wedding day. One day, Mr. Carr got in touch with her. He sent her the contract, reminded her of the rules, then told her to start sending updates. The planning process was smooth. Mr. Carr sent regular updates, and Chet was impressed with what she saw. It was exactly the kind of wedding she dreamed of. However, her mother wasn't convinced. From the moment she heard about the planner, she was unsettled. Wedding was less than 6 months away, and Chetta hadn't hired anyone yet. She was taking her time to look for the best people. While the decor was important to her, it wasn't as important as the company she'd be keeping. She wanted a wedding with familiar faces, people she trusted. She wanted people she knew. But Chetta wasn't having it. "Mom, please, there's no need to be afraid. She's a professional. I mean, she's the best in the industry. Besides, we all communicate through text anyway. Who needs face-to-face meeting when you have WhatsApp?" "It's not the same, Chetta," her mom replied. "I'm sorry, but I don't trust a woman I don't know. Imagine if she absconded with our money, or if she didn't show up on the wedding day. We wouldn't even know where to start looking." "That won't happen, Mom. She's not even starting a new business. She's been around for years. She has plenty of reviews online. And besides, I've paid her half of the money already, and nothing happened. The wedding is going to be great, Mom. You're just making unnecessary worries." Chetta's mom sighed. She didn't want to upset her daughter on her big day, so she kept quiet and hoped for the best. 2 weeks later, Chet got a car from her colleague, Tina, who was also married by Talani. She posted it on her page, and her mom couldn't help but notice that too. "See, Mom, Tina is happily married. Her wedding was beautiful. She loves Talani." Her mom nodded, but she was still uneasy. She couldn't shake off this feeling that something was wrong somewhere. She tried to convince herself that it was just pre-wedding jitters, but she wasn't sure. On the day of the wedding, Chetta looked radiant. Her mom watched as she walked down the aisle with her dad. She felt a pang of sadness, knowing that Chet would soon leave her nest. Still, she was happy for her. She had found a good man, and she looked happy. After the ceremony, Chetta's mom looked around for Talani, but she was nowhere to be seen. Maybe it was for the best. She thought maybe her daughter was right and she was overreacting. Maybe Talani was just a hard-working businesswoman who wanted to keep things professional. As the year went on, Chetta's mom gradually forgot about the incident. The wedding was a blast. Everyone had a good time. Chetta was happy in her marriage, and that was all that mattered. 5 months later, Chetta and her mom were eating dinner when her phone buzzed. It was Tina, her colleague. She had called to invite her over for dinner. Chetta was excited to go. She was missing her friend. But her mom felt a sudden chill run down her spine. She knew what that call meant. She could feel it in her bones. Before she could stop her daughter, Chetta had picked up the phone and agreed to go. The next day, Chetta was ready to go over to Tina's house when her mom called her. "I'm not comfortable with this, Chetta. Your friend and her husband dead are—" "What? How?" Chetta's voice was laced with shock and sadness. "They died in their sleep last night. The whole house was burnt down. Their bodies were found this morning. It's a miracle their neighbors escaped. I don't understand, Chetta. How could 2 young people be alive one day and dead the next?" Chetta froze. It wasn't just any day. It was Tina's 10th wedding anniversary. Suddenly, the memories came flooding back. The photos of the burnt-down house, the news article, the anniversary. She recalled every detail. Chetta dropped the phone. Her heart pounded against her ribs. She suddenly understood what her mom meant all those months ago. Talani had taken something from them. She had taken their lives. She looked at the ledger. 9 names were written in there. 9 couples. 4 were crossed out. 5 remained. Cheta knew what she had to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of today's story. I am the narrator. Thank you so much for listening to this story till the very end. If you like this story, please give it a thumbs up. Share this with your family and friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.